News continues on Chicago Live on Fox Local with Anita. We'll see you back here at 4.
Next up. Appreciate you being here as always for another good show. So I'm Anita Blanton, your host, and I'll be with you through 4 p.m. We always have a lot to talk about through 1 and 4 p.m. So let's go ahead and go over some of the things that we can expect in this first hour that we have here together. We are going to bring in our own Casey Cronus in this hour to talk about the story that she's working on today. It is really important and key for journalists, for reporters to follow up on stories. You know, once we've done the initial story to see if it actually impacted a change, you know, if bringing different issues to light results in some change in the end. And so she's back out at an apartment complex that dealt with AC issues in the summer. Wouldn't you know it, here we are talking about dangerously cold temperatures outside over the last week, and some of the residents say they have no heat. So we're back on it. She's back on it. She's going to be joining me before we get out of here this hour. Also, we're starting to get in information from many major corporations, major companies that are planning or already in the midst of some big cuts for 2026, especially in the technology sector. So Amazon announced just this week it's going to be cutting 16,000 jobs. I think that's on the heels of about 14 or 15,000 that they had in another round of layoffs last year. So I'm going to be talking with someone from an employment agency, Challenger Gray and Christmas Incorporated, on what's behind the layoffs, what job seekers should be doing now, and what you should do even when you're on the job. You start to hear this kind of news. Also, we often expand our coverage throughout the area with the help of our friends over at Block Club Chicago. They are typically digging into what's going on to each and every one of the 77 neighborhoods, but they have a massive story on their hands right now that may have originated in Chicago, but now they've tracked it all the way to Serbia. From Illinois to Serbia. The reporter on that investigation is going to be joining me right around 1:15 with the details on that. But we want to start right off at the top of the hour with a discussion about something that is happening right now at this moment. We're going to the mayor of Dixmoor right now to talk a little bit about the water main break that they are dealing with there. Mayor Robertson, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
So tell me about the day. When did you all get the news of this? It's not the first time that we've been out to Dixmoor for a water main break. So what's happening?
Yeah, so got the news at 5 o'clock this morning that there was a possible water main break on 146 in Sealy. At that time, I did go over. There was a break. The whole street was pretty much flooded and frozen. So what I did, I called my crew out, and they're out there right now as we speak, working to get this break taken care of.
Mm-hmm. And how long do you think it might take? I mean, how extensive is it? I hear that there are a couple of schools that were shut down as a result of this.
Yes, we had 2 schools shut down, which was Rosa Park and King Elementary School. It affected the kids from Harvey as well as Dixmoor. So this break will pretty much be taken care of, God's will. I say maybe about 3, 4 o'clock this evening it should be complete.
Okay, well, that should be helpful for people who maybe work a 9 to 5, that maybe by the time they get home, things will be repaired, hopefully. But what do you tell people to do in the meantime?
Well, what I tell people to do in the meantime is just, pretty much bear with us. I will be bringing some water around to the residents that are affected at this time. Me and my crew is going to get together and supply them with some water. Tony Prattwinkle's office with Build Up Cook, as well as State and County, we got a new water main that's finna be put down in a couple of months for this area that's continuing to have the break as of right now.
Yeah, and let's dig into that a little bit more. You have an infrastructure improvement project that just got completed. So was this not a part of it?
No, it wasn't a part of the infrastructure project that just got completed. Again, the pipes out here are very, very old. They're aging, and they're 100 plus years old. So what we're trying to do is get much help as possible to replace the remainder of some of these pipes.
So this is in the area that as you said, you still need to get to, i.e., it's presenting the same problems that we covered in the past before things were actually being addressed, that you had the funds to be able to address it. For people who are seeing this, that it's happening again and again, how do you get the funds to go further with the project since you're still having the problems?
So pretty much, I get the fund. I pray first, and then I go to the powers to be, which is of course Build Up Cook, as well as the state and federal level, and they're sending funding down the pipeline to get this infrastructure completed. We have had a lot infrastructure completed within the last 2 years. So, I mean, they're doing a great job, and I appreciate if they continue to help us, because Dixmoor is in badly need of infrastructure and pipe work here.
Yeah, and it goes well beyond, obviously, the pipes. What are some of the other things that you've been fixing with the infrastructure dollars?
Well, so far, the infrastructure dollars that we got, it was just basically for the piping, the water tower, as well as the one project that went from the water tower to 139th Street, which was more piping work. So, whenever we get the funding in and it's earmarked for that particular area, that's what we use it on.
Yeah. And tell me what your fear is right now as we, get ready for like more snow or extended periods of these bouts of cold.
Well, the fear is more pipes breaking, and if we're going to be able to deal with it. I'm pretty sure if we can't deal with it, I believe in asking for help. So I will immediately get on the phone and call Cook County Emergency Management, where they have been very helpful. So far, they brought us some water so I can pass out to the residents, and they say wherever we need them at, they'll be out to help. So as long as we continue to get the help, and as well, I'm out helping. I'm in the hole too, also helping with the breaks. So my thing is, we'll get the job done.
Yeah, we certainly hope so. Is there like a boil water order or anything of that nature?
No, not right now, because the way they fixed it, they did it partially live, where the water will actually blow out and won't nothing be sucked in.
Okay, all right.
And our tank is holding pressure right now, so we're doing pretty good.
Okay, well, we certainly hope it continues to go in that direction. Obviously, we'll be checking in, and we certainly appreciate the time that you've taken on a busy day trying to deal with this emergency for people in the area to come on the show and explain it for everybody.
Yes, that's no problem at all. But again, we still need help and need funding where we can continue to get this infrastructure work done. And I appreciate everyone that's helping this far.
Dixmoor Mayor Fitzgerald Roberts, we certainly appreciate you. You take care.
Yes, ma'am. You too. Thank you. God bless.
God bless you as well. It's 1:08, everyone. And as I was speaking to the Dixmoor Village Mayor Fitzgerald Roberts, the mayor of Minneapolis began speaking, Jacob Fry. I believe he's still speaking now. He is. Let's go ahead and listen into a bit of what he has to say.
Our great republic. This may not have been a battle that we signed up for. Each and every one of us entered public service for a different reason. Some of us entered to keep our cities safe. Some of us entered because we love to build affordable housing. Some of us entered because we care about climate. But now is also a moment where we all got to stand together. You have this unique relationship with the American electorate. This is more important than being a Democrat or a Republican. This has to do with our day-to-day lives, who we are as a people, who we are as a democracy, and who we can be as American citizens. Mayors have that important role. I know that you will carry it out, and I cannot be prouder to be part of this tremendous team. And so, on behalf of all of these incredible Minneapolis residents that are going through a very difficult time right now, to say the least, thank you. on behalf of the next city and the city after that that may experience this kind of invasion, thank you. We got to hold rock solid. We cannot back down. Our cities, our mayors are what will hold this democracy together. Thank you so much.
Okay, that was just the tail end there of his speech there at the Conference of Mayors. It's taking place right now. And, you know, this is a conference that we saw Mayor Johnson for the city of Chicago also is represented there as well. Mayor Fry, as we were listening into him in just that small portion of his speech, he talked about the difficult time that Minneapolis has been enduring, asking for others to continue to support their city as they have been dealing, of course, with increased immigration efforts. About 2,000 federal agents that went to Minneapolis at the beginning of this month, the beginning of the year, and within just days, they had a deadly shooting of one of their residents there, Renee Nicole Good. A couple of days after that, they had another shooting at the hands of federal agents, but there were varying circumstances behind that. The third shooting that they had was another deadly shooting, and this one was another Minneapolis resident, and that was just over this past weekend, of course, Alex Preddy, and there's still so much fallout that's coming from that particular situation as the details become more available and the investigations really ramp up into what took place there. He said at the end of his speech, our cities, our mayors will be what upholds this democracy. Again, this is a conference of mayors from across the country, but the mayors of some of the big cities, and especially big cities that have been in the news lately, have had maybe more high-profile speaking roles there. So we saw even Mayor Johnson speaking at the National Press Club yesterday about Operation Midway Blitz that took place here in our area, you know, essentially a precursor to Operation Metro Surge, which is now happening in Minneapolis. And this week there have been many developments as we are coming off of the heels of that deadly shooting from over the weekend. And just recently, of course, we know that Tom Homan, the border czar, is now going to be in charge of Operation Metro Surge. The former commander, Gregory Bavino, who was also the commander of Operation Midway Blitz in our area, has been reassigned after the shooting of Alex Preddy. I believe Mayor Fry's speaking a little bit more to some reporters. We're going to listen into this as well.
Has the federal government offered you and the governor reassurances that there will be 2 independent investigations as well as a detailed plan for a drawdown of federal agents in Minneapolis?
You got a lot in that question there. Look, we've had good and productive meetings with both President Trump as well as the border czar Homan. And what I will say is I will believe it when I see it. They have talked about drawing down the numbers in terms of federal agents, ICE, and Border Patrol in Minneapolis, and that is essential. The reality, however, is that we need Operation Metro Surge to end. It is not about creating safety in Minneapolis. If the goal was to find an antidote to chaos, there would be a very straightforward answer, which is to end Operation Metro Surge, remove the federal agents, and we got to move forward. Are we hopeful for progress? Are we hopeful that there will be a drawdown in the force that we're presently seeing in this invasion in Minneapolis? Absolutely. I'm hopeful. Do I expect the conduct to immediately change? That is my expectation. That is what we are insisting upon. But again, I'll believe it when I see it. I'll start here.
Do you have any meetings planned with the president while you're in town, or anyone on Capitol Hill before you leave?
We have a number of meetings that are planned with a number of different elected officials and senators over there at the Capitol. And, you know, the message is going to be very clear. Right now, ICE is being utilized as an occupying force. This is not about ICE doing normal ICE stuff. This is about indiscriminately pulling people off the street based on the fact that they look Somali or they look Latino. This is tearing families apart, creating chaos. People are afraid to go to the grocery store, get to work. And we've had Minneapolis residents by the tens of thousands stand up, not just to say this ain't okay, but to offer safeguard and protection and help for those communities that are disproportionately being targeted right now. And so the ask is very straightforward. There's a lot of areas where cities, and these mayors can tell you, cities around the country do need help. They need help with monies for housing. They need money for food. They need support for law enforcement. They need to keep their respective cities safe. ICE is not doing that. I'll go here and go over here.
So piggyback on the question, do you have any plans to meet with the president?
Not today, I don't, but certainly the door is open and I'm willing to meet with him before. Like I said, we had a collegial and productive conversation last we talked, and I certainly would welcome another one.
There's a funding battle right now on Capitol Hill. Some senators will split off DHS funding. What's your message to them?
I'm sorry, say it one more time.
There's a funding battle going on right now on Capitol Hill. Some senators, Democratic senators, will split off DHS funding and move forward with the rest of that. What's your message? Should they hold the line?
Look at the way the funding is presently being utilized. If we were talking about safety, there's a lot of good recipes for how that money could ultimately be used. If it were to be used for more police officers, I would get on board. If it were used for additional housing supports, count me in. If it were used for SNAP benefits or areas that would actually improve the safety of our city, I think there are mayors around the country that would say absolutely. But when you have 3,000 to 4,000 ICE agents and Border Control coming to a city where you have 600 police officers, making it all the more difficult for them to do their very important job of keeping our city safe, what I would say is that ain't working. So we need an immediate end to Operation Metro Surge. I'm glad that it's being drawn down right now, but this needs to stop.
President Trump said that on Truth Social yesterday that you're playing with fire.
Okay, so they are continuing to ask questions of Mayor Fry. Obviously, he has been a headline. His city has been at the top of people's minds across the country over the last several days, several weeks, as we have been watching what's been taking place in that area. The Trump administration talks about going after the worst of the worst. He is saying, Mayor Fry is saying, that the cities do need help from the federal government. He says for things like housing, for food, and even for safety, for law enforcement officers. But he actually says, Mayor Fry says, that the job of the federal agents is making it more difficult for the local police officers, some 600 police officers that they have for the greater metropolitan area of Minneapolis that are now kind of caught up in all of these other things. So he says that they have had some productive meetings. He has had some productive meetings with President Trump, with the border czar Homan, and obviously with the governor there. And the governor and President Trump have spoken of the same. He even called it collegial, that they had a good conversation. So everyone agrees, good conversations, but I think it's about where you go from those conversations in terms of what happens from there. He says that he wants them to draw down agents, that he's hopeful for progress, but they have not gotten there yet. He wants ICE to be utilized as a normal force. And some of the former ICE directors have even talked about the fact that they don't recognize what's happening right now. But he says that ICE is terrorizing families in that area, creating chaos in the area. Again, the Trump administration will give a list of some of the people that they have taken off the streets that have lengthy rap sheets, but there is that balance of some of the things that have been happening as a result of the ramped up immigration efforts that are now causing protests in the streets, not just in Minneapolis, but throughout the country. Even here in Chicago, we've seen it over the weekends. We've seen them, the protests that have spawned gone up here, and now there's going to be a national blackout, economic blackout that's even happening tomorrow. So we'll continue to watch. Again, they're continuing on with their question and answer portion, but our next guest is on the line, and we don't want to hold them too long. So let's take a quick 2-minute break, and we'll come right back with that discussion. All right, we're back at 122 right now, and boy, oh boy, the latest reporting from Block Club Chicago about ex-Loretto hospital leader that's now at the center of a $300 million COVID scandal is just pretty mind-boggling here. So we had to call him in so that we could get the details from those who have been getting into the nitty-gritty themselves. Kelly Bauer from Block Club Chicago joining me now. Kelly, let me just ask you this. Did you ever see from starting the reporting on this man that we would get to this point?
Absolutely not. You know, to us, it was just a local story. We were just trying to hold a local person accountable. And now it's taken like an international turn. It's been very interesting to observe.
Yeah, so many twists and turns. I don't know if we should start with where we are right now, and then we'll kind of go back and come back. So let's go with the latest headlines here.
So the big news that we revealed this week is that Dr. Anash Ahmed, the person who's been at the center of these Loretto hospital scandals, was arrested in Serbia and is still being held there. But the U.S. government is seeking his extradition as he faces charges in the United States.
Yeah, and I mean, to hear $300 million is just like, whoa, how did we get here?
So this story started with us getting a tip from a reader about how people were being allowed to cut the vaccine line and get doses from Loretto Hospital, even though Loretto was supposed to be prioritizing them for people on the west side who were very vulnerable to COVID-19. So it started as a very simple investigation for us, just trying to make sure that doses were going to the neighbors who needed them most. And from there, we revealed more line cutting, and then we showed questionable conduct at Loretto. We found out that Mr. Anash Ahmed, who was the CFO and COO of the hospital, had given contracts to his business partner and friend and neighbor, Samir Suhail, and other questionable things like that. Separately, I also was reporting on how a lot of COVID-19 testing pop-up companies had opened up in the Chicago area, but the test results they gave seemed very flawed, sometimes outright faked. And
Yeah.
then those stories kind of converged to this summer when we showed that Mr. Ahmed was now facing charges both in the Loretto Hospital scandal, accused of embezzling millions from the hospital, but also in the COVID pop-up story with the federal government saying he defrauded the feds of about $300 million through fake COVID testing.
I mean, what was going through your mind as this was snowballing?
Honestly, I think the biggest thing was just trying to follow all the threads of this story. It was so important to me from the beginning that we keep a focus on how this affected everyday people. So at the start, it really was about, we want to make sure West Siders are getting access to the COVID-19 vaccine doses that they're supposed to be getting access to. And then it turned into like, well, now, we have questions about the quality of care at Loretto under this leadership, and we have questions about how taxpayer money is being used. And, then it was questions about, are people able to be safe if they're not getting COVID test results that are accurate or trustworthy? And so that was always the biggest thing to me, is just really trying to focus on how does this actually affect people? What was the main problem here?
Oh my goodness. I mean, and there are many problems here. So, what are the charges?
So, Dr. Med has been accused of embezzling, accused of being part of a bribery scheme as part of the Loretto Hospital scandal. And now he's facing a litany of charges in this 300 million COVID-19 testing case. And there's a number of co-defendants who are also facing charges in the United States, including the former CEO of Loretto Hospital. So it's just really turned into two very large cases.
Yeah. What has Loretto said about any of this?
In the past, Loretto Hospital has declined when we've reached out asking them if they'd like to comment on, the past offenses of Dr. Ahmed. But I know more recently they do have new leadership. They are really trying to rebuild neighbors' trust in Loretto Hospital, and they certainly have distanced themselves from the former executives.
And how are the feds going after this money? This is, again, when you start to hear of what would need to be a reimbursement of almost $1 billion at the end of the day, how are they going about getting the money?
So they've already seized or have tried to seize some of the assets that they say were tied to these cases. They want to take $50 million from a bank account that Dr. Ahmed had. They are hoping to seize several cars, including like several Rolls Royces and Mercedes Benzes. So that's one way that they're trying to do this, is going directly after the assets that he and others involved in the case have. But I think it'll certainly be a tall order to try to get back, more than $290 million.
Yeah. And as all of this was happening, I mean, you guys are reporting on it, hard at work, trying to get the details. These guys are like living it up in a whole nother country. What were some of the things that they were found to be doing during the time that, you're maybe dating things that were happening?
Yeah, that's where things started to really take on that like international tone, huh? So we did our investigations, and then the federal government did their investigations, which led to the charges. But shortly before they brought charges against Mr. Ahmed and Mr. Suhail, the two of them moved overseas, even though they were likely aware of the investigations. We know Dr. Ahmed was, and moved to Dubai. And the federal government has said that they were living as fugitives. They were knowingly wanted in the United States for these cases. From what I can tell with my current reporting, Mr. Suhail continues to live in Dubai. He opened up a luxury plastic surgery clinic. He regularly posts on social media images of himself with, watches worth thousands of dollars, designer clothing, things like that. And then I also dove deep into what Mr. Ahmed had been doing while he was living abroad and found that he was, buying property in France and claiming to open all these businesses and seeking investments from people. So they were certainly still living very active lifestyles while living, as the federal government put it, as fugitives.
Yeah, I mean, if you know the block is hot, for maybe to put it in a different way, if you know that you're under investigation, 2021 Mercedes-Benz G-Class, a Lamborghini Hurricane, a Rolls-Royce Phantom, a Rolls-Royce Ghost. I mean, this is 4 properties in Houston. You can't tell that they knew that they, might be going down anytime soon.
That was one of the very interesting parts of this was really digging in and trying to find information about what their lives had been like since we, had made these revelations about their work at Loretto Hospital. And I can remember at one point one of the homes or properties that I showed Mr. Ahmed had bought and sold was described as a Daddy Warbucks mansion in real estate listings. So like I said, it's just been a very colorful story, lots of twists and turns. But certainly they were living fairly flashy lifestyles while the government was actively investigating them for, embezzlement and fraud.
Yeah, and so there's a federal investigation going on. I'm seeing that even American Express is suing them.
Yes, so that was one of the things that we were also able to show in our reporting is that, on top of these federal investigations, the two of them also left behind, like unpaid bills and lawsuits, homes that went into foreclosure, very pricey American Express bills that they did not pay. And I know that there are other lawsuits too. So, I suppose they are involved in several cases.
Yeah. And so right now, let's circle back. Right now, where are they and where does this go from here?
So what I can tell from my current reporting is that Mr. Suhail appears to continue to be living in the United Arab Emirates, or at least conducting his plastic surgery business there. The federal government has said that they want him to return to the United States as part of the case that he is charged in. In the past, his attorney has said that he's in negotiations to return, but it has been, I believe more than a year since he's been charged and he still remains overseas. As I said, the government has described him as a fugitive and said that his delay in returning has delayed that case. And as for Mr. Ahmed, he is, to my knowledge, still being held in Serbia. He requested that that the Serbian courts allow him to stay in a hotel instead, and that request was denied. But the U.S. Prosecutors have put in an extradition request and are hoping to have him return to the United States. It's not clear yet if that will actually happen.
And so our international relations now kind of come into play here.
Yes. So part of what was tricky when they were in Dubai was that the United States and the Emirates do not have a traditional extradition treaty. So it was just, not as natural a process to try to have them return to the United States. That's what I was told by experts on extradition. But the United States does have a formal extradition agreement with Serbia. So in theory, that should make things a little more streamlined. But it's still not a guarantee from what I've been told.
Oh my goodness. Like you said in the beginning, you just never know where a story is going to lead you when you start it. And it is pretty shocking, all of the things that have come from your reporting. But great job staying on it.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it's just one of those interesting stories where it just started very local, very Chicago, and now we have, federal agents stopping planes before they take off to Dubai so that they can arrest passengers and people getting arrested in Serbia. But certainly at the heart of all of our reporting is still that idea of like, how does this affect everyday Chicagoans? Why should people in Chicago care? So that's why we're staying on the story, just hoping to hold people accountable.
Yeah, we appreciate what you do. At the end of the day, those dollars should have gone to more honorable things for sure, and people.
Yes, and thank you so much for having me.
Keep us updated. All right. We certainly appreciate Block Club Chicago and always being able to call on them to kind of go through the stories that they're working on. Man, did that just take a million twists, or what should I say, 300 million twists. But we do appreciate them staying on top of it and making time for us to go over it. All right, so it's 1:35 right now. Perry, are they still? Okay, all right. We were monitoring just some of the things that were going on at the mayor's conference, but they've ended that. So we're going to go ahead and go to break. Give us 2 minutes, and we're going to bring in our next guest. $137, everyone, and we've talked a lot about jobs numbers. Obviously, those are looking back to the tail end of 2025. But as we got into the top of 2026, starting to get more data about major corporations, major companies that are cutting back on employees. So Colleen Madden of Challenger Gray and Christmas Incorporated is joining me. We've called on them before when we've needed to have these discussions about what's going on. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes, thanks for having me.
All right, so Colleen, the latest big company is Amazon, cutting 16,000 jobs. What do we think is behind this?
Yeah, I mean, this cut really aligns with what we're seeing more broadly in the tech sector. So since 2023, really, tech has led in job cuts with over 400,000 in those years. And really, I think it's a sign of a maturing industry. Amazon's a maturing company, so they are cutting out those layers. But it's also happening at the same time that AI is rising. So it's definitely causing a workforce realignment.
Yeah, because it's hard to see like, oh, Amazon business is booming for you. And then they start to make these types of cuts and you wonder, well, wait a minute.
Yeah, definitely. And they have their hands in a lot of buckets. So they have warehousing, they're dealing with retail issues. So inflation is hitting them hard. Their tariffs are hitting them hard. And the confidence of consumers and their behavior is also shifting. So I do think Amazon is just reacting to those pressures and kind of cutting out those layers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we've seen, some of the models maybe that they were testing in our area, the Amazon Go stores, some of the Amazon Fresh that are going to be closing. And so you're saying, really, yeah, when they're testing something out, they're just going to continue to test different things.
Right. And they're such a giant company. So they're and a big employer. So when these things start failing, it is going to mean job losses.
Mm-hmm. Is the technology sector the place where we're seeing the biggest losses?
So primarily for the private sector, yes, over the last several years. Last year, the only one that surpassed it was the government sector. And that was the big story last year, of course. But technology was still the second most cutter. And it's really being driven by, some of it's a maturing industry. They overhired during the pandemic and also the last decade, some overinvesting. So there may be some course correction. And I believe AI is definitely a part of this as well.
Mm-hmm. You also mentioned, inflation and tariffs. Talk a little bit more about that, because that would factor into many of these different sectors.
Definitely. Inflation, just things costing more. That means the cost of employing someone is higher as well. So inflation is really hitting every industry. Tariffs too. We haven't tracked a lot of layoffs due to tariffs, but that kind of uncertainty, companies don't like to hire in that kind of environment. They are more likely to cut back on things in that instance.
So this time yesterday, we were listening to the Federal Reserve. They left things unchanged in terms of the interest rates. Do you think what we're talking about today will weigh on maybe the next time they meet?
Definitely. I think rates holding steady, that's good for inflation, but does not stimulate hiring. So if we're seeing a lot of layoffs, and as you said, there's a lot of big companies that are announcing layoffs. I think Dow Inc. just had a big layoff announcement. UPS is laying off a lot of people. So that may impact the decision at the next meeting. But for inflation, holding rates steady is good, but not so great for hiring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you were advising someone, especially, I want to talk for a moment about young people who are maybe in their final semester of school and getting ready to graduate and thinking about all the wonderful possibilities of, the next step in life. What do you say to them right now?
Hold on to that hope and that positivity. It's going to be a little bumpy. So right now, the average job search length, according to the federal data, is just under 6 months, and that's about 2 weeks longer than this time last year. It's going to be a bit of a long ride, but companies are still hiring. So don't lose hope. You will find a job, but it just may take a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm. A moment ago you were mentioning some of the different companies that have announced lately. Nike even cutting 775 jobs. We have an article on fox32chicago.com. They kind of list Pinterest even slashed quite a few of their employees. Meta, 1,000 jobs. It's pretty concerning to see. Should we feel concerned?
Well, January is a big month for layoffs. I think companies kind of get done with their fiscal year end and they reassess things. So we do tend to see more large scale announcements happening in January. There are reasons to be concerned. Hiring is pretty low. Companies are taking a long time to hire people. So I would be a little bit concerned, but I think that means you really need to get in front of human people. You can't just do your job search on a computer answering ads. There is hope out there, and you do need to stay positive because employers really want to hire positive people.
Yeah. Let's talk more about, all right, if you're already on a job, we get these trends that come up from time to time. And I remember at one point there was the job hugging trend. What do you see in terms of trends moving forward? And if you're already on the job, what do you advise those folks to do when we're seeing things like this and you're hearing those rumblings?
Yeah, the quits rate is low, so that does tend to suggest people are really holding on to their jobs right now. But if you are looking, if you're still employed or unemployed, the best thing you can do today is set up 10 meetings for next week. And these are information meetings. They're not, hey, I'm looking for a job. What can you do for me? But it's your former colleagues or friends of friends in your industry or role that you might be interested in. If you're young, new to the job market, someone who you want to be in 5 years. And it's just, can you give me some advice on how you got to where you are in your career? Or have you been in a job search and can you give me some advice on that? And then most importantly, these are the skills I've honed over my career that I can bring to the next role.
Yeah, I mean, mentorship matters at all stages of life.
Definitely. And the strategy with this is you're meeting different people and you're talking about your skill sets and what you can bring. And that'll spark in someone's head, oh, I know someone who's hiring for this role. Let me get your resume to them. And it's usually a few, interview meetings down the road, but you have to kind of advertise that you're looking. And when you lose a job, it's kind of counterintuitive. You don't really want to talk about it, but you have to tell people you're looking so that they can help you. And in the age of applicant tracking systems and, AI gatekeeping, it's really important to get in front of a person.
Let me ask you this. Whenever we see this data come out, we often focus on the companies or the sectors, industries that are cutting jobs for obvious reasons. But are there any safe industries these days?
Yeah, I think healthcare is the perennial hirer. We have an aging population and healthcare is always in need of people. There's a skills shortage in healthcare. So if you're a young person and you're starting or you want to switch careers, nursing and blood banking and kind of these healthcare roles you don't think about are in short supply and definitely in need. And AI can't replace those.
Ooh, I like that. Any other areas where you see major shortages that people should be maybe considering, like what you just mentioned?
Right. I mean, it's usually in places you're not thinking about, like these kind of back end roles that maybe support a larger industry. But, we talk about how we think writing is going to be replaced by AI and there's maybe some entertainment will be. But I think that just showing that you have a proficiency in something and showing a decision maker that you have that proficiency is going to help you stand out in any field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in any field. I think great information here. Is there anything else that you think that people should be keeping in mind or preparing for in 2026 where these types of things are concerned?
Well, I think that, I tell job seekers all the time to stay positive because that's what employers want to hire, positive people. So it's easier said than done, especially when you're in a job search. But if you're job seeking right now and you are hitting a lot of roadblocks, just try to give yourself grace, surround yourself with people who will support you and encourage you. If you're the spouse or partner of someone who's in a job search, please be supportive and encouraging there too, because they're hitting a lot of rejection. And unfortunately, you do have to stay positive when you're trying to land the next role.
Yeah, I think giving myself more grace is one of those things that I try to remind myself of each year of life. Thank you so much, Colleen, for coming on the show. We always appreciate you all there at Challenge Your Grain Christmas.
Thanks for having me.
All right, you take care. Everybody, it's about 1:49 right now. We're going to take a quick break. Give us 2 minutes, and then we'll proceed from there. right, welcome back, everyone. It's 1:51, and we're actually going to take you out to Massachusetts, where Governor Maura Healey is speaking right now, and she's addressing new protections for residents from U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
Here, churches. Under the Trump administration, churches and places of worship are now seeing parishioners afraid to come and worship and pray. At a time, by the way, where a lot of people are understandably and rightly turning to God for comfort and support. The Trump administration is actually standing in the way of religious freedom in this country, and we're going to stop that here. Stop that in our houses of worship, and we're going to stop that in our schools, because families need to trust that schools are safe for their kids. Hospitals and healthcare clinics have not been immune to these tactics. Providers across Massachusetts, I'm talking about hospitals, healthcare centers, doctors' offices, are seeing people skip medical appointments, skip needed care, pregnant women not going to the doctors, not taking their kids for pediatrician visits, not going to the doctors when they're actually really in need of emergent care. Why? Because they're afraid of ICE. We have people who are afraid to visit their parents in a nursing home because of ICE. That's just wrong. And we're going to stop that here in Massachusetts. It's absolutely unacceptable. We're going to protect and keep safe our healthcare spaces. Now, finally, courthouses. Judges are telling us that ICE's presence is keeping away victims and witnesses. Here's what that means. It means that people who are charged with crimes are not having those cases prosecuted. It means that people who are charged with crimes are not being prosecuted and held accountable. That's counter to public safety. And I'm not going to let that happen anymore here in Massachusetts. I think about the impact on victims of serious crimes who've had their cases dropped because they're afraid to go to court, or a witness is afraid to go to court, and then violent criminals left to roam free as a result, domestic abusers, people who commit rape and assault. When that happens, guys, it makes everyone less safe. And so our legislation will ban warrantless civil arrest by ICE in our courthouses. Our legislation will also make it unlawful for another state to send their National Guard into Massachusetts without the permission of this government. You've seen this, Donald Trump sending Guard troops into Chicago and Los Angeles against the wishes of state and local officials. These deployments of the Guard, they drain resources. They take members of the Guard away from their important duties, both their day jobs and their need to be ready for actual emergencies and disasters and needs in their state. This hasn't made anyone safer. It's a dangerous development, and we're going to do everything to stop this from happening here. Our bill will also allow parents to prearrange guardianship for their kids in case they're detained or deported. And I am really sorry to even have to utter those words. But at the end of the day, we've seen here in Massachusetts and around this country, littlest kids taken away from their parents, left alone or in the care of maybe a neighbor, maybe the state. It's wrong. So in the interest of protecting people in Massachusetts, we're going to make it easy for parents to take the step of guardianship in the event, the tragic event, it's necessary for their family. In addition to filing legislation, I'm also doing things that will take effect immediately. I'm signing an executive order today to protect our state and state resources from ICE. That includes prohibiting ICE from making civil arrests in non-public spaces of state buildings. We're not allowing ICE into these spaces. Prohibiting the use of state property for staging immigration enforcement activities. And lastly, prohibiting state agencies from entering into any new 287G agreements unless there is a clear and imminent public safety need. The bottom line is that Massachusetts is safer when residents can trust their government when they go to report crimes or get services. And we are trying to restore that trust today. What we're doing today in Massachusetts is standing up to an agency and an administration that are out of control. But we're doing more than standing up to and against something. We're also standing up for something, right? You know, basic concepts of freedom and rights and protections enshrined in state and federal constitutions for a long, long time. We're standing up for our immigrant communities who are a part of the fabric of our communities and contribute so much to our culture, to our economy, to who we are. We're standing up for public safety and for education and health care and the ability of people to freely practice their faith.
All right, again, there we have been listening into Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey as she is detailing some of the new legislation that she's proposing regarding more protections for people in her state, residents of her state, when it comes to ICE and border protection and the officials that may come at any point in time. And she says, one, she wants to protect people in healthcare spaces, in churches, in courthouses. She wants to ban warrantless civil arrests. She talked about the what she feels is the National Guard coming from other states, like what we saw, and she actually mentioned here for the state of Illinois, when National Guard troops from Texas arrived in our area. They deployed here, but were not actually mobilized, and that was the result of a lawsuit, a federal lawsuit there. But she talked about how moves like that by the Trump administration drain resources and keep even the National Guard from being ready in particular states where they might be needed for a natural disaster of something of that sort. She's also signing an executive order protecting resources from ICE and also to pre-arrange guardianship should someone be taken into custody by federal agents, that they would already have something worked out so that the child or the minors don't end up in the custody of the state or in maybe a neighbor's home or something. So she's continuing on with that discussion. Of course, you've even seen here over the last few days, both Mayor Johnson, who was speaking at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., and also Governor Pritzker talk about essentially becoming a model for many states as to how to deal with these ramped up federal immigration efforts. So much of what took place here in our state during Operation Midway Blitz did end up in federal court. And so others are looking at that, and even if they don't have an issue yet, especially a blue state, if they don't have an issue yet, they're going ahead and preparing for it in advance. So again, that was the Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey speaking about what they are doing in advance. It's 2 o'clock though, and we have plenty more to come in this hour. In fact, we cannot wait to get to our next interview. So give us 2 minutes, and we're going to take you somewhere for some pretty incredible stories of wildlife surviving these extremely cold conditions that we've been met with over the last few weeks. .203 right now. Let's talk about where we're going in this hour. We're going to give you a preview for SoxFest. That just gives us, moments like these, the ability to think of better days to come when it comes to the weather outside. When we'll be back out at, the baseball games. You can't ever guarantee that you're going to have a warm first day of baseball, but once the season gets going, we'll be back outside burning up in the stands, but we'll get a preview of SoxFest coming up shortly before we end this hour. We're also going to talk about a bit of turf war that might be happening out at O'Hare. We've got a couple of airlines that are saying, I want to expand to this. No. We want to give people more of this. I mean, maybe we, as the flying public, become the beneficiaries of all of this in the end. But we'll talk a little bit more with an expert about all the details into what's going on. And around 2:15, we're going to have a really important discussion as we get ready for African American History Month about African American history and whether it should be taught in school. Some people would say Black history is American history, right? But whether it should be taught in school, maybe even in its totality, in its contextual totality. We're going to hear from a lawmaker in Wisconsin who's actually having to fight that. And before we get to all of that, we're going down to Florida because, occasionally we've got to see how the animals out in the wild handle the conditions that we've been dealt with, having to deal with over the last few weeks here. So I have Savannah Bone. She is a crocodilian enrichment coordinator at Gatorland. Did I say that right? A crocodilian?
You did. You did so good. It's crocodilian, but either way works.
Well, you're the first one I've met, so I'll never forget it now. Crocodilian. Tell me, I love the eyeshadow. I love, the decor behind you there, the hat. Whatever you're giving, I'm getting here. But tell me how the Gators, how do they deal with the cold conditions that even Florida's getting?
I know, Anita, it's so nice to meet you. And I've been watching you while I was waiting. Like what you're doing, I don't think anyone ever gives people that do what you're doing right now the credit they deserve.
Thank
Like
you.
being able to talk in a room alone and just get that message across. It's amazing. It's been a pleasure watching you before we got on here.
Thank you. We all are doing our part, I couldn't do what you do. So tell me a little bit, if we're being honest right now, tell me a little bit more about Gatorland and what's going on there right now.
So Gatorland is a 77-year-old alligator and crocodile park. We're the icon alligator and crocodile park in Florida, but we are based in Orlando, and we love Florida, and we love it to be hot and sunny, and we do not like this cold weather that's here right now. I don't like it. The alligators don't like it, and we're stuck in the middle of it, and the temperatures are still going to fall even into the weekend. So it's definitely something we're not used to here. We don't really know how to dress. Like the whole layer thing is baffling to us. But the alligators, they'll do just fine. They've been around millions and millions of years. And so today they're all out soaking up that Florida sunshine. And then tonight they're going to go under the water and try to not exert any energy at all because they're solar powered. And so it's definitely been a really crazy cold in Florida right now.
Oh, yeah. We were talking with the meteorologist down there just a couple days ago, and it was maybe even yesterday that was. Well, it was yesterday. And we were talking about, the iguanas that fall from the trees.
Yes.
And how they're able to survive that. So I saw something a while back. And get me if I'm right or wrong here. Get me together. I saw something a while back about the animals. I don't know if it's alligators or crocodiles, but that like put their nose out of the water to survive when it freezes around them. Is that right?
Yeah, so the alligators, they go from Florida and they go up a little bit more north. And so what they do is when the water freezes, and we haven't had a freeze in Florida, so I don't know if we're going to have one because it's going to be 20 degrees or less, I think, this weekend. But what they do is it's a type of hibernation. They'll put their nostrils up out of the water. And if the water freezes around them, they'll basically go to sleep, but they can still breathe through those nostrils that are up out of the water. And then when the water heats back up, they kind of come back to life. Like the iguanas that fall from the trees, like they just kind of go to sleep when it gets that cold. And then that's how they fall out of the trees. And the mistake people made with the iguanas was people would feel sad for them and take them in their house, and then they would heat back up. And iguanas are crazy wild. Like they were destroying people's houses in Florida, all kinds of stuff. So don't do that. And our alligators are going to be fine. Like our water that comes into Gatorland comes from a well. So it stays around 74 degrees when it comes out of the chute. So all the alligators will converge on the one spots where they know the water is coming through. And they just sit right there in the warmest spot. And then when the sun comes up, they'll go out and bask.
Oh, this is so interesting. So, and how many might you see at a time?
Oh, so Gatorland, the park, we have over 2,000 alligators and crocodiles.
Oh my goodness. Do they hang in like families when they're doing these things that you described, or is it like a few of them here, few of them there, or is it kind of massive?
It's definitely boss energy. I mean, we have really, really big lakes. Like our park is 155 acres, so it's a gigantic park. And alligators live in the wild in Florida too. But our alligators at Gatorland, they're kind of like VIP alligators, so they get special treatment. They get a lot of food. They're kind of bougie, I like to tell people. Like they never catch our birds because they're not going to waste their time on something like that because they get to eat fresh chicken from us. And so they all live in groups, and some alligators like some better than others, and that kind of thing. So, but whoever is the boss, and that could be like we have a female Cuban crocodile, and she's the boss where she lives, so she gets to make all the rules. And then some other habitats that we have. Whoever is the boss gets the closest to the warm water.
Oh, very interesting. And so they're more maternal led.
Yeah, they are. Like alligator moms are some of the best moms in the world. People don't know that. So like an alligator mom will take care of her babies for months, sometimes even years, depending on the scenario and how good the mom is. Like you don't see that from a lot of reptiles, so that's something that's really, really specific to alligators. And we're just proud to have them here. Like our weather's not like Chicago, and I do love Chicago. I've been there so many times. My favorite thing about Chicago is the people. But down here in Florida, we like it nice and toasty and warm.
And are the animals your favorite thing about Florida? As opposed
You know
to
what?
the
They
people?
really are. Florida's kind of a wild place. It's kind of like the Wild Wild West still, but we do love Florida, and I'm always happy to be here. And it's definitely one of my favorite places in the world. Our crocodiles have a little bit more problem with the colder weather than our alligators do. Crocodiles, like we have crocodiles from Venezuela, we have crocodiles from Cuba, we have crocodiles from Australia here, all around the globe. So some of them even have their own personal heat lamp that hangs over the top of where they like to bask at, and so they just get that heat coming down on them all night long.
How do you end up with international crocodiles?
Well, so Gatorland does a lot of conservation work in other countries, and I'm actually our ambassador, our global ambassador. So I get to go to these countries and see these animals, and we just like to have animals. A lot of them we rescue, a lot of them were abandoned, a lot of them come from facilities that get shut down, like all across the board, illegal pets, things like that. So we have crocodiles and alligators. Well, alligators, there's only two kinds, Chinese alligator and American alligator. But crocodiles come from all over the world, and they usually do really well in Florida, but we've never had a cold spell this bad for this long. Like, it doesn't matter if it's like a day and then the sun comes back out. But this is like an ongoing cold, so that's a little bit different for our animals here.
Are you getting like rescue calls from people around Florida?
Not right now. Usually the most of our rescues come during like the mating season. So like May, June, July, that kind of time when big, huge male alligators are out looking for girlfriends and they might wind up in the wrong spot. And that's the general time that we take in the most alligators from the wild. But let's say tomorrow someone had an illegal pet alligator and they were keeping it in their bathtub and the Wildlife Commission catches them, then that alligator will come to Gatorland and it'll live out the rest of its life here with us.
Keeping an illegal alligator in your bathtub sounds very
Oh, it
Florida.
happens.
It sounds very Florida. I need to know about how you ended up at Gatorland. Tell me more about you.
So I was originally born in South Carolina, and I grew up in a really small town. I graduated with less than 40 people, but I always loved alligators. I used to fish with my dad all the time, and we would see alligators, and we may or may not have caught a few little alligators when I was a little girl growing up. And I just always loved them, and Gatorland is the best alligator and crocodile park in the world, and I've seen a lot, and so all I wanted to do was work here, and when I got hired here, it was like my red carpet moment, and we've just taken it off since then.
Oh my goodness. And how long have you been there?
I've been here in October will be 10 years now.
Wow. Okay. What's your favorite part of working there? And what's the hardest part of working there?
Whew, the hardest part is I did news this morning. I got pooped on by a snake this morning. It was so cold this morning when I got here. So little things like that, sometimes in the summertime, even though we love the heat, it gets super hot in Florida. But every morning I get to come to work and I get to see animals that I know wouldn't be alive if it weren't for me and if it weren't for Gatorland and the work that we do. So that's reward enough. And every time a little kid comes, because people come to Florida, they want to go to Disney, right? Yeah. And I get it. Like, we love Disney, we love Universal, but like the little kids that like watch our YouTube channel or are into dinosaurs and reptiles, like I get to see them come in and I get to see their parents be all angry and like, I don't know why my kid wanted to come here, but by like the end of the time that they spend the day with me or with any of our other employees here at Gatorland, the parents are like, oh, we get it now. Like, because we spend a lot of time with our guests in the park, and, you know, we're very open with them. We make friends with them. Some kids I've seen grow up coming to the park, you know, all their life. So it's just a really big family.
Wow, I love it. And I always love to hear more about people when you are so clearly passionate about what you do for a living. Thank you so much for sharing your joy with us and for telling us a little bit more about how everything's going on in Florida while you all are in this cold snap. Hang on in there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And anytime you ever need anything, I'd love to speak to you again. And you're just doing an amazing. I don't think people realize how hard it is to talk when you're just talking. And you have to entertain and you have to keep it engaging. And watching you was really, really great. And I was inspired by it. So I'm happy to ever talk to you again if that happens.
I'm going to take that clip and play it for my bosses. But thank you. I appreciate you so much.
Yeah, it was wonderful to meet you and love you guys in Chicago. Stay warm.
All right, you all stay warm as well. Thank you for what you do. She's
Bye.
wonderful. All right, 2:17, everybody. Give us 2 minutes and we'll get to our next conversation. All right, 2:19, everybody. We have still been in here oohing and awing about Gatorland in the break. We could have continued that conversation for maybe the rest of the time here. It's so interesting to learn more about places like that, what they do, and the people who work there even. I mean, obviously we want to find out about the animals, but the people who work there as well. Like, what makes you do what you do? I love that. But we are going to continue on with our conversations. And this next one is particularly important right now. You know, can you believe? I mean, January is over. So February is right here. And as we get ready for Black History Month for 2026, there are legislators in Wisconsin who are fighting to reintroduce the African American History Education Act. I want to talk more about why with Wisconsin State Senator Dorit Drake. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me, Anita, as well as making a change ancient, not just in Chicago, but across the country as well.
Thank you so much. Tell me about how long you all have been working to even get to this moment.
Yeah, so this was a piece of legislation that was introduced, I want to say 2 to 4 years ago. And so we introduced the African American Education History Act, which is again a critical step to ensure that our state students are receiving a comprehensive, inclusive, and truthful education about the rich tapestry, of our nation's history. And so we believe that it's important that we introduce this in response to what is happening in our nation with the erasure and elimination of Black history from federal government down to the local level. For example, we've seen the effects of this today, with the National Park Service and federal agencies that have actively removed Black historical figures and events from our national parks, agencies, websites, and museums. And we believe that it's truly important that we just don't focus on the things that you might hear, typically like, Martin Luther King, slavery, and civil rights. Our history is so much more rich than that. And so while Wisconsin does have a state statute that requires teachings of an understanding of human relations, again, these contributions are confined to lessons that aren't conclusive of what our history is, and it overlooks the depth and the breadth of African American experiences during and beyond those periods, which allows for misconceptions, misinterpretations, and inaccurate history and historical lessons. And that's what we're seeing today.
Yeah, well, we just saw the removal of the slavery exhibits in the Philadelphia parks. Were there some specific things that happened there in Wisconsin that made you all say, no, we need to act right now?
So I would say it's just been a culmination of things. So this past year's budget, we always had funding for our Wisconsin Historical Black Museum. It's always had funding. And this year, unfortunately, Republicans decided not to fund it. And so it's one of those measures, right, where they're actively trying to defund, remove any type of history that would teach the whole history of African Americans. And so with this legislation, it does require our educators themselves to be well-versed in African American history as a condition for them to get their license, because we want to make sure that our students are getting education that's qualified and meaningful. And our bill does also mandate that they highlight all the contributions of Americans history at all grade levels in public, charter.
Tell me a little bit about how it's being received.
Yeah, so I would say this is something that back at home, we know we need this. If you talk to historians, we know that we can be doing more and that we can be doing better. We have local residents that see the harm that the Trump administration is doing in removing the very history. For example, one of my constituents was part of the 6 AAA honorees, that she just got a Congressional Medal honor last year. And those efforts in terms of honoring their legacy was removed in one of the federal buildings earlier last year. So those are things that are having direct impacts on our very constituents. And I would say that people are excited, but it's also important that we acknowledge that our history is something to be celebrated about. One thing that unfortunately, President Trump has said is that when we talk about these things, it deepens societal divides and it fosters a sense of national shame. And that's not true. I would say you don't truly love America unless she has made you cry, meaning that we have its flaws, we have its sins. And the only way we learn is by understanding our history. And so I think people are truly excited that we introduced this legislation today.
Yeah, you touched on the place that I was going next with this, and that is, there are those who feel that hearing about more painful times in history make children feel then ashamed of who they are.
Exactly. And that's why it's so imperative. One of the partners that we've worked with closely was the African American and Jewish Friendship Group. And during our press conference today, we had a speaker talk about his own shared experience. Older African American gentleman who shared that he didn't even see his own true history until he was in college. And it wasn't until he pursued seeking his own history that wasn't provided to him in the way that he was hoping for is where he began to see himself and value who he was and seeing your identity in that. And I think that just holds true for anyone. I think the more that you learn about your history, the triumphs and the struggles, it makes all of us appreciate not just where we've come from, but it is an integral part of American history. And so having the honor of being the chair for the Legislative Black Caucus and the vice chair for the Senate Democrats, these are crucial things that we should be focused on, because we can never be unified if we fail to recognize the shortfalls. And the impact of having this piece of legislation introduced and passed, I think, will not only celebrate our wins, but our resilience and struggle for liberty and justice for all.
Do you think it is possible for children to only learn the wins in society over time? Do you think that there is a moment where the past is just the past?
I think you need to learn both. And this is why, we can learn about the great things that our former, leaders have done, what Malcolm X or Dr. Martin Luther King has spoke about. But in understanding the trials and how you move past it gives it more depth, and understanding. So, for example, understanding the history of what happened with Black Wall Street. That was an era where you had Black residents that truly poured into building up their own economy. And unfortunately, they faced state harm where they completely demolished that piece. But we're never told about the story of how they rebuilt it in spite of the troubles and the trials that they faced. And I think seeing the whole picture is just as important versus just focusing on the wins.
Mm-hmm. What has the conversation been like with the Jewish Friendship Group that you're working with?
They've been really excited, so they've been doing this type of work before we even introduced this legislation. And so they truly believe that having a full, robust understanding of all parts of history, especially African-American history, is crucial. They've gone to different schools, school districts, to work with teachers and social science educators on how they can be better educators in teaching the history. And so they're committed to doing that work, and they are excited to promote not just this piece of legislation, but also working with other partners like we have a Wisconsin Historical Black Society Museum and so many others that they are truly excited to work with.
Okay.
Sure.
So you have reintroduced this legislation. Do you feel confident in its chances this go round?
I would hope so. And this is why, again, in response to what's happening with the Trump administration, it would, I think, behoove everyone in the state, again, that Black history is a part of American history. And so we're hopeful that we continue to have conversations with our Republican colleagues, because if they are serious about understanding the freedom and liberties for everyone, then all the more reason to ensure that there's resources allocated and licensure required to ensure that our students know more. So we'll continue to have those conversations and push for a public hearing.
Okay, and you mentioned a public hearing. Where do we go from here? Give us like a timeline of what happens next.
Yeah, so what happened? So today we introduced the legislation. We did a press conference, and so we've sent it out to all our colleagues in the building, in the Senate, and in the Assembly to sign as authors. So once that deadline has passed, then it's up to the Speaker and the Senate President to give it a bill number and assign it to a committee. And so you're looking roughly about 2 weeks, give or take, and then from there, that's where the ongoing conversations in the building continue to push for a public hearing.
Wisconsin State Senator Dora Drake, wonderful speaking with you today. Please keep
Thank
us
you for having
updated.
me.
We're invested in hearing what happens in the end.
Thank you, and stay warm in Chicago.
We'll try, but the same for you all up there. Take care.
Same here. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, it's 2:30, everybody. Give us 2 minutes, and we'll be right back. 2:32, everyone, and we're getting ready to have a conversation in just a bit about some of the things that are going on O'Hare. But while we wait for that next guest, let's go ahead and take a look at what's happening with the stock market today. You know, this time yesterday we were starting to see a swing back in the right direction, and you could see we actually started off the day still in the green. Things were looking good when the market opened for the day, but oh boy, what a roller coaster it's been on since then. I mean, we've had a couple of peaks of green since, but by and large, more red than anything that's been on the screen. Obviously, we don't know where we'll close the day, but right now you're seeing we're down at the very least, down 80-ish points there for the Dow Jones. The S&P 500 also falling today. Let's see here. The NASDAQ declined 1.3%. Even Bitcoin shedding 6%, hitting its lowest level in 2 months. So there's a lot going on. Of course, just yesterday we were listening in to the the Federal Reserve and hearing more about where we were going in terms of interest rates. They were keeping them the same, getting more analysis of why they decided to do that, and we've just seen today all over the place in terms of the market. So the Senate, I'm seeing here, failed to clear a procedural vote on a government funding package. And that is a part of why we are seeing what we are seeing here, because that may be a precursor for where we go from here. It does raise the chance. It is a chance, not a foregone conclusion yet, but it's going in that direction, raising the chance that much of the federal government will shut down this week. The shutdown would take effect on Saturday, 12:01 a.m. Eastern Time, if lawmakers cannot advance funding legislation. And of course, right now, there are a lot of questions as to how Democrats especially will handle this vote. They have been asking for funding for DHS, to be taken out of the funding package, as there are many concerns about the amped up immigration efforts in many states, more specifically, what's been going on in Minneapolis over the last several weeks here. And so even right here on our air, we had a senator from our area who talked about not being in favor of funding this legislative package moving forward if funding for DHS was in there. On the other side of things, Republicans will say that essentially amounts to like defunding, and old calls of defunding the police, but this time it would be defunding DHS. And so that appears to be the major driver of what we're seeing here on the screen. And in talking with the senator the other day about this, the thought was that, and I straight up asked, okay, people just went through a shutdown. What do you say to people who are thinking, oh my goodness, are we actually going through another government shutdown? Of course, October into November, we had countless interviews about the government shutdown during that period of time. And at that time, Democrats were holding out because of health care premiums that were set to skyrocket in the new year, and that a new, at the very least, something needed to come in place of Obamacare, the subsidies that were going to be expiring, and eventually it was because there were a few Democrats in said areas that, especially those that had high levels of federal workers, that crossed over and said, hey, we can't continue to keep these folks out of work. I mean, people were furloughed, so they knew they would get their money back at some point in time. But even for the flying public, which is what part of the conversation where we're going in just a bit here, for the flying public, of course, we had all of those flights that were canceled and delayed during that time because TSA workers were not on the job. Many of them that were furloughed still needed to have their bills paid immediately, and therefore they took on second jobs. and called out sick from their federal job, and therefore there were tons of ripple effects as a result of that government shutdown. And now here we are, because they just did a short-term deal. Here we are now at the beginning of 2026, ending January here, and looking at the very real possibility that we may go into another government shutdown. Again, a failed procedural vote on a government funding package as of right now, with Democrats holding out because they do not want DHS funding put in the overall funding bill. So we're going to monitor it closely, see where they go from here. But as of right now, this is how the markets are reacting to some of that news that we're hearing from Capitol Hill, on top of, of course, the announcements from the Federal Reserve just yesterday about unchanged rates for now. So a lot of red there on that screen, sitting down about 60 points right now for the Dow Jones. We'll have to kind of dip back in and see where we end the day, but as of right now, not looking too good. It's about 2:39 right now, everyone. And again, we're waiting on a couple of conversations here to come. We're waiting on those guests to hop on the line. Just as soon as we get those, we're going to go ahead and bring them in. But let me tell you a little bit about some other things that we're anticipating in this hour. We are anticipating talking about SoxFest. That helps us to get in the frame of mind of better days in terms of the weather outside. We have been in the deep freeze over the last couple of weeks. And of course, just a short while ago, we were talking about the Cubs going on out to Arizona to get their practices in. And now we're going to get to talk about what's going on over at the Sox headquarters. But first, let's get to that conversation about what's happening at O'Hare and the two airlines that are vying for more space, more passengers, more people to hop on flights. Joseph Schwieterman is joining me. We always love having you here. He is, part of the School of Public Service and the president for the Transportation Research Forum, the Chicago chapter. And thank you for joining us again.
Thank you. Delighted to be here, and it's really exciting for a city to have an airport we call it the hottest hub in America right now. So it's a pretty good situation.
The hottest hub in America. And yes, we have had a designation switch from Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson, right?
Yeah, that's right. And, we do have the distinction of being the airport with the most flights in the United States, probably in the world, too. We're waiting to see if data supports that. And we just had a surge in activity at American and United. And you will say it's creating some real complications out there. Atlanta has the title still of the most passengers, but we're closing in on that. So it's been a really good year.
Well, we like to hear about that. I mean, that things are on the up and up. But let's talk about these two airlines. United and American, kind of doing a little turf war.
They are. It's really something to see because as recently as 3 years ago, a lot of talk is American foot half out the door. They built their Dallas hub, which is one of the largest hubs in the country. But they have had quite the reversal, and they have made a big push to expand. They lost some gates, which led to a legal battle, but then they acquired some more from Spirit, so they're growing. But just this week, United announced this massive expansion that's just impressive. It's going to be the most flights United has ever had at O'Hare. And we're going to see, pushing upwards of 900 flights a day at O'Hare, and a lot of new routes coming with that. So this this battle between American and United is really kind of kick into a whole new realm. And, we don't have enough gates to support this. So terminal expansion is getting urgent right now.
Mm-hmm. Urgent. Do you think that it's going to happen to the tune of making both companies happy?
We've looked carefully at O'Hare and actually went out and walked the whole airport just to make sure I wasn't missing something. And it's, United is all of Terminal 1 and most of Terminal 2, and now even have some flights out in Terminal 3 at the G Concourse. They've grown so much. And American, is mostly Terminal 3, but they have a little in other terminals as well. And so the city knows that we need a global terminal that's going to be a befitting of our sort of our greatness as a transportation hub. So the plan is to tear down Terminal 2 and build this large, impressive global terminal. But we need somewhere to put the flights when we do that. When you tear up that terminal, it's going to lead to lots of complications. And with all this growth, the current plan just gets pretty messy trying to get that done.
Speaking of things that get a little messy, do you know about these billboard ads?
You're probably referring to the Southwest ads and so forth that sort of pick a little fight with the United Americans, so to speak, trying to proclaim the greatness of Midway Airport and their services. But maybe there's other ads out there I'm missing too.
Apparently, there's some United ads jabbing American.
Well, it's really something because they made it clear they want to be Chicago's airline. Their headquarters is right here in the Willis Tower. And they've always been bigger than American. And Scott Kirby, the CEO, has made it clear that, they want to be dominant at O'Hare, and they're putting their words into action. And so I'm not surprised. I worked at United many, many years ago, and it was like a tit-for-tat battle between these two. And that seems to have come back now, where one does something, the other one sort of nervously watches on.
Do we, the flying public, end up the benefactors of all of this in the end?
It's pretty impressive that we have the two big hub operators at O'Hare and then Southwest, which was pulling back at Midway a little bit. They had some Wall Street excitement, you might say, and they're getting pressure to limit their flights to try to shore up the profits. And so Midway had this retrenchment in flights while O'Hare was splitting from the seams. But just a few weeks ago, Southwest announced this big expansion. And they're putting some priority on Chicago. So to have three big hub airlines in this town is really good if you're a flyer. And I suspect we're going to see more growth this year.
I love it. I love to see it. More options for us here. I think it's phenomenal. What are some things that you think, as they're kind of looking or vying for more room, more space, more passengers, that they're missing right now?
Well, a big thing that we're concerned about with O'Hare is that when you have the traffic split between the two airlines, they tend to operate smaller planes. So you may be flying to Atlanta or LaGuardia and say, wait a minute, this is a little regional jet, with 2x2 seating across. And, it's a pretty small plane to be running on the bigger routes. So that's partly why I have such a big gate shortage. Is a lot of the expansion has been with these smaller planes. Whereas Atlanta, most of them are larger jets. So we're thinking as the airlines expand, they're going to start substituting the smaller planes with the 737s, the 757s, and so forth. And Boeing's finally got that assembly line going again, so we should see that. But that's critical to solving the congestion.
That is very interesting. I'm familiar with having to get on a regional jet, but usually it's for a very short flight, between my parents' home in Dallas, is usually like a 15-minute flight. And so small one for that, but I couldn't, for the long haul, it gets a little more concerning.
It does, and a lot of the new routes have been added by American United. For example, United is going to go to Erie, Pennsylvania, and to Bloomington, Illinois, and so forth. Those will be smaller jets, but they did announce, 20 or 30 existing bigger routes like San Francisco are going to get more flights. So we're real curious what the size of those planes are going to be, and that's why planning the airport out 30 years is so difficult. If these smaller planes continue, we're going to need 250 gates. We have about 200 now. But, if they shift to these bigger planes, the need for gates isn't as great. And that's why there's been so much tug of war between the airlines and the city, that the airlines are saying, we don't need as many gates as you think, and we don't want to pay for gates we don't need. But that was before this latest surge in flights. So it's pretty tricky stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is there anything else that, like, those of us who aren't, doing the research and meeting the people, having the discussions that you have, might miss in all of this?
Well, Southwest just had a real successful rollout of their assigned seating yesterday, and there's a lot of mixed feelings about that because a lot of us love the Southwest. I've been an A-list member. but I have to say they did it pretty slickly. So they're a lot more similar to United American now in terms of kind of fares they have and the baggage policies and so forth. But what we are seeing too, which has been really, really good, is that for a while the sense was that international flying at O'Hare was so difficult because you come into Terminal 5, which is no beauty queen. Then you got to take the people mover to make your connection and tote your luggage, on the people mover, and people don't want to do that. They have to go outside. So let's just route that international traffic through Newark or another airport. But airlines seem to be back expanding internationally, and those connections seem to be working despite the awkward design.
Yeah, walking outside, it gets a little awkward, especially when the weather conditions that you just came from don't meet the weather conditions that you've arrived to.
Yeah, that's right. And you look at the great global cities around the world. I mean, Munich, Paris, London, Tokyo, they all have airports where, it's seamlessly connected with underground rail systems and so forth. So O'Hare's going to get that when the new global terminal opens, but, that's still a few years away. But the city's thinking big, which is nice to see.
All right, let's continue to think big, and hopefully everyone can just get along. Thank you so much. We always appreciate being able to call on you.
Thank you so much. Enjoyed it.
All right, you take care. It's about 2:50, everybody. Give us 2 minutes. We'll be right back. .51 right now, and it is a wonderful time, even though so cold, to think about warmer days to come. Sheena Quinn with the White Sox, Vice President of Public Relations, is joining me now to talk about SoxFest. Thank you so much for taking time to talk.
Of course. I'm back again to talk about warm weather things when it's like 5 degrees outside. So I'm so happy to be joining you.
Give us a little hope of what's to come. Yeah. Tell us what people can expect this year.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so SoxFest Live starts this weekend, and it's like the unofficial start for us to start thinking about the White Sox baseball season. We're so excited. There's going to be a lot of fun stuff. The Fan Fest this weekend is actually in the heart of Bridgeport over at the historic Ramova Theater. It's a really amazing spot. It's been renovated and restored by a wonderful family who's from the neighborhood. This will be year 2 for us now at the Ramova Theater, and there's a lot of fun in store. for. So live music with maybe some guest appearances from some of the members of our clubhouse, kind of showing off their talents that are happening away from the field, which is really fun. And also just some really fun programming. There's an opportunity to ask questions, hear from our manager, Will Venable, and also our GM, Chris Getz, about how they're preparing for the 2026 season. It's going to be a really cool time. And cool time talking about hot baseball weather as we're here in January. So it'll be a lot of fun over at Ramova this weekend.
And I know you all have a real emphasis on the kids. Tell us about some of the special things that you're doing to engage with youth in our area.
So actually today we're headed over just shortly to the McCartan Boys and Girls Club. We have a wonderful space there that we're about to debut. It's the recipient of our Diamond Impact Awards. It's a really wonderful program. It was the first time that we had ever done it there in the first class of recipients to receive this. We're going to be unveiling their art maker space today. So a few of our players and of course our manager and GM are going to be joining us to cut the ribbon on that and get that open for the community. And then on Saturday, specifically for the kids, we're going to be over at the ComEd Rec Center. So that is a really fun SoxFest kids camp. My kids are going to be out there. They're going to be learning from the best of the best. Not only our youth coaches, but also some of our players are going to be out there to help teach skills, help the kids learn how to run the bases, all the really fun stuff. And then, of course, photos and autographs as well.
How does it feel for those of you all who are in the club to come back around to this time of year?
Oh, it's so fun. It feels like an unofficial holiday, right? We're so excited because it's, you get through New Year's, you get through the holidays, and we all immediately start thinking about spring training, and we start thinking about that season opener on March 26th. We're going to be opening actually in Milwaukee, but we'll be home here at Rate Field. Will and the team will be back here at Rate Field on April 2nd. So it's going to be really fun, and I'm hoping, it's early, it's early April. You never know what Chicago weather is like, but I always feel like that's kind of an endearing thing and a fan tradition to be out there in April in your winter coat. But maybe this year the baseball gods will shine upon us and it'll be bright and sunny.
Yeah, you really never know what to anticipate for that first game, especially. I mean, later in, you'll be burning up. But that first one is so unpredictable. Are there some other things that you all have planned for this year or prepared for this year in 2026 that fans will see that maybe we haven't before?
So we're actually going to be announcing a lot of our promotions over the next couple weeks, but specifically at SoxFest Live, we've got some really exciting announcements about what people can expect in 2026. We always recommend to people when they're coming here to the ballpark to check out the food items. We're really known well. Our concessions team does a really good job of putting out new things, fan favorites. Everybody always loves the Polish sausage and onions, but also the milkshakes have been the topic of discussion. So one year we had our campfire milkshake. Last year we had a couple different ones with the cake shake celebration, which was in honor of our 125th anniversary. But this year, I'm sure they're cooking up something really good. Literally.
Yeah, the shake has to be the grand dame of them all, I think, each year.
I think it is. I mean, everybody loves the hot dog, the Chicago dog that we come here for. Even the nacho helmet is perfect too, and our Cuban. I mean, a lot of fans here will come here for the Cuban sandwich. It's somewhat of a classic here as well.
Tell me about the impact that the team, having this SoxFest Live has on the community, and the connection moving forward.
Sure. I mean, we changed the format a couple years ago to be intentional, to be truly a celebration of the neighborhood. I think for us, being in the Bridgeport neighborhood and just blocks from the ballpark really feels like a celebration of all of the wonderful fans, but also local businesses, the locally owned businesses that we see all the time at the ballpark, and then our fans will go and visit after games. It's a really fun way to kind of start the baseball season before the official season starts. So it's great to get people at the theater. We have a huge crowd of fans coming this weekend who are going to be meeting our players for the very first time, getting photos with them, and for some repeat attendees, they get to see the players again. So it's nice. You have a mix of people who are just meeting and forming memories for the first time, and others who are keeping the connection and the relationship going with our players too. It's a really fun time, and we've got a really great team this year with a lot of personality. So I'm excited for our fans to see everyone.
Well, I'm excited too. Thanks so much for taking time. I know you have a busy day. You're headed on over to the Boys and Girls Clubs. We appreciate what you all do here in the city, and can't wait for our baseball season to arrive.
Thanks for having me back again. Go White Sox.
All right, take care.
Bye.
2:58 right now, everyone. Give us 2 minutes and then I'll set you up for our final hour together here for Chicago Live. Hey, welcome back, everyone. It's 3 o'clock right now. Thanks so much for staying with us here on Chicago Live. If you've been with us since 1, or if you're just joining us for this final hour, we appreciate you being here. Let me tell you a little bit about what you can expect as we close out the show and get ready for the 4 o'clock news that'll be coming up next. We are going to check back in with Lake Geneva. As just a few moments ago, if you were here, we were talking about SoxFest that's happening this weekend. Well, Winterfest at Lake Geneva is also happening this weekend, and early this morning, we were there with Good Day Chicago, capturing the sculptors coming out for those first few, pricks at the snow and the ice out there. But now we've got to check back in and see how far along they are. And so before we go, we'll be checking back in with them. Also, President Trump is expected to be making an announcement within this hour. We'll see if it happens on time. Often, with a lot of politicians, where they start the day with their schedule is not where they finish the day. So it may be happening around 3:30. If so, we'll go to it whenever it begins. But we also have an important conversation about an organization here in our area, foundation here in our area, that has received a massive grant that is really going to help them. You know, a few days ago we were talking about the Clean Slate Act in our state, helping people to have a second chance. Well, this foundation, the Safer Foundation, is all about helping people to make sure they don't end up back in the circumstances that put them in prison or some type of, gave them some type of record, but to give them a second chance, give them some help making the best out of their new situation. And so we'll talk more about the affordable housing grants that they just received from Meridian Health. We'll catch back up on the weather, but right now we've got to talk about a very serious situation that we have been monitoring in our viewing area here. You know, we got word of a spa in Hinsdale that had several hidden cameras inside. Every time we hear of these situations, it's just disturbing on multiple levels. Mitch Sexner, who is an attorney with Sexner Injury Attorneys, LLC, is joining me now to talk a little bit more about the hidden cameras, where we're seeing them, who ends up being targeted, things of that nature. Thank you so much for your time.
I thank you for having me.
Let me get your first reaction to hearing yet another instance of someone hiding these cameras in a business locally.
It's unfortunately not surprising. These type of things have been happening for years. It's been really the proliferation of inexpensive, easy to purchase hidden devices that has made this type of thing literally explode.
Yeah, I mean, we were having conversations not too long ago about a chiropractor's business where several cameras were hidden. There was like a dessert stand that had cameras that were hidden, where there was the owner telling young ladies to go and change in a particular bathroom, knowing that he had set up cameras in that bathroom. And now this spa. Is it something about particular businesses that makes them more amenable to hiding cameras than others?
Well, I don't know that it's exclusive to particular businesses. You know, wherever there's a bad actor looking to do bad things, they're going to find a way. And it used to be years ago that hidden types of devices were very hard to come by. There was only one store that I can remember in the 70s and 80s in Chicago that sold such things. And I'm not even sure that they were available necessarily to the public without some type of permission or to the police. But these days, these things are so easy and they're so cheap and they're so technologically advanced that anybody with an Amazon account can just can purchase it by 3 o'clock and have it on their doorstep by the time they wake up, unfortunately.
That really is frightening. But I think about places where people have a reasonable expectation of privacy and those being invaded in this type of way.
Right. Well, obviously, other than washrooms, which are everywhere and are unfortunately a very common place where hidden cameras are placed. Obviously, nobody's going to be taking a hidden camera inside Starbucks where you have your coffee. There's nothing interesting to see there for most people. It's places where people get undressed primarily. So it's not only spas, but it's tanning places, it's locker rooms, it's and it's medical professionals, unfortunately. Anywhere where somebody's going to take off their clothes, if there's a bad actor with bad intentions, it's a potentially dangerous cocktail.
Is there a way of detecting them or, protecting ourselves?
Well, like, for instance, in this particular instance with the Reflexion Spa, the people just need to be aware of their surroundings. Of course, it's not normal to every time you go to the bathroom someplace to look all over at the ceiling and the walls, but But unfortunately, that's what this has brought us to take a really good look at your surroundings. Like the smoke detector at Reflexion, it was not a typical looking smoke detector. It looked a little odd, not the type of thing you find in Home Depot. And but it's and sometimes things like that are easier to spot. But it went on at Reflexion for quite some time, with a lot of people that came in and out taking their clothing on before it was actually caught by an astute customer there. Because sometimes the cameras are so advanced that they're pinhole cameras. They can be placed through one of the tiny little dots in the drop ceiling. And how's anybody supposed to see that? So you have to look around for these things as best you can. And sometimes you can even, a lot of these devices transmit by Bluetooth to another location where they're being recorded. So you could take a look at your Bluetooth, see what things are coming up around you. Is there some unusual device that's located nearby? Could be a tip-off.
That's a very interesting point there that I wouldn't have thought about. And it was going to be a part of my next question to you, was about how far and wide these images can go. I mean, so far the Hinsdale police have identified 60 victims, and I'm thinking back to the chiropractor's office and another location, I think that was in Lake County, and there were hundreds that they believed had been filmed over the course of several years. But these images, I mean, they go so far and so fast.
Yes, if they've identified 60, it's probably just because they stopped counting, because over the period of time that these cameras were up there, there were way more people that went through there. And I think the police collected enough identifications that they could make a good criminal case against the person who's been charged. But undoubtedly, they're way more than that. And as far as how far these things go, some of these devices are recording to an SD card that's on site. Some of them are transmitting to an offsite to be recorded. Some are just a live stream where it's not even being recorded at all. But any of these things, as you mentioned at the beginning, wherever people have an expectation of privacy, a reasonable expectation of privacy, it's a crime in Illinois. At one point, while Illinois was catching up with technology, there were red tape areas where people could get away with doing these type of things. But the statute in Illinois has tightened up considerably over time, and pretty much audio or video transmitted without the permission of the other person is going to be a crime in Illinois.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit more about that. Let's say you're the one who finds it. Does it become criminal versus a civil litigation that takes place from there?
Well, both of these things apply. Of course, a bad actor who's recording other people, if the police can prove such a thing, then certainly they're subject to criminal prosecution, as is the person in the Reflexion case. And the best advice to people who do find something like this or think that they find something is don't touch it, take pictures, contact the police right away, because they will hopefully come right out and protect the area. If necessary, get a protective order so that the owners of the business don't mess around with it to hide things. And that's probably best advice to somebody who thinks they found something like that.
It's so scary. And, you mentioned like catching up to technology. That's the other aspect of it, that it seems like the minute we've kind of figured certain things out, there's a whole new way for someone who is, hell-bent on trying to do these things, for them to do it.
Well, that's absolutely true. Technology has always been a double-edged sword. There's a quote that says, technology is a useful servant, but a dangerous master. As long as people use technology properly for the reason that it was created, we've got nothing to worry about. But there's always people who are using it for the wrong reasons. And as far as this type of technology, I'm not even sure why most anybody would even want it other than for bad purposes. You know, there's Ring doorbells and everybody gets that. But as far as videotaping in your house, even if you're watching your nanny or a babysitter, completely get that. Other than that, it's hard to imagine why people need this technology at all.
Am I under the right understanding that you are representing some of the victims in this Hinsdale case?
We are.
What have they been through?
Well, you know, you were asking before about whether this is criminal or civil. Of course, there's criminal penalties that attach to people who have done these things. But on the other hand, you've got people who have been severely affected, potentially for the rest of their life by what's happened. They've got PTSD, anxiety. When somebody's taped without their permission, without clothes on, that's a form of sexual abuse. And these people are emotionally distressed. And it's obviously, you would know that once this has happened, once somebody knows that this has happened to them, they're going to have trust issues. They're not going to want to undress at the doctor. They're not going to want to have another massage. It profoundly impacts them for the rest of their lives. And so although there may not be physical injuries, like from a car accident or something, there are severe emotional trauma that can last people the rest of their lives. And that's what a civil lawsuit is all about. And that's how we're helping many of these people.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was getting at with the criminal versus the civil aspect of things, because, yeah, I mean, it is a crime, but do you feel that the justice system even, severely maybe as necessary to the point of what these people have gone through and will continue to go through for the rest of their lives, penalizes people who are the offenders?
Well, sometimes the criminal justice system doesn't do that sufficiently, but that's why their victims are allowed under Illinois law to make an impact statement with the judge at any sentencing. And I would suspect that when this person eventually pleads guilty or is found guilty of these crimes, I suspect there's going to be more than one person who goes to their criminal case at sentencing and make sure the judge is very well aware of how profoundly this type of thing has impacted them.
Mm-hmm. How long do these types of prosecutions take? I mean, do you think that, we might get to seeing someone who is sentenced sometime this year?
It really depends on the criminal defense attorney that's handling each particular person's case. In this particular case, there's a lot of information. There's a lot of what's called discovery, which are police reports and videos and all types of things to go through that the defendant and his attorney are entitled to. So it's number one, it's going to take a long time just for them to collect and receive all of those things so that they can take a look at them. But even once they've received all the discovery, it can still take a long time on a case like this, especially a case that involves technology, because sometimes there are very specific expert witnesses that need to be brought into court to testify. And and sometimes criminal defense attorneys will try to draw the case out and make it last longer so that the public heat goes down before the case is over. I'm not so sure that's going to happen here. There are a lot of very, very angry people.
Yeah, and that was leading to where I was going with this, which is, how do you get people to stay engaged for that entire time instead of thinking, you know what, I can't get these images back. What's done is done, and that they're not going to see justice.
I think as far as this victimization fading from their memories, I do not think that's going to happen for these people. It is something that they think about a lot and affects their daily life a lot. So I don't think that's going to happen no matter how long this defendant's defense attorney drags the case out.
Well, not that the victimization would ever go away. That's not what I'm insinuating at all. But just the feeling that you're actually going to see justice.
Well, the state's attorney's office is going to be reaching out to these various victims, and the victims are the clients of the state's attorney, of the prosecutor, and they're going to make their wishes known to the state's attorney. And I can't imagine that the state's attorney is not going to work hard to get sufficient justice for all these people.
Yeah, you've worked on cases similar to this, what we're seeing in Hinsdale right now before. What was the worst case that you've seen of something like this happening?
Well, this one's pretty bad, but the other one that you mentioned about the ice cream owner victimizing children, that's terrible. Somebody who, it's hard to say whether children are involved at Reflexion or not, but if they were videotaped, then regardless of what crimes that person is charged with right now, the state's attorney can always add additional charges, including such things as possession of child pornography, production of child pornography, things like that, child exploitation, which are very, very, very serious crimes that require penitentiary time. But every one of these is serious. Years ago, before the technology was readily available in the 70s or 80s, there was somebody who was just hiding in the ceiling of a tanning spa with a camera. Well, you don't have to go to that extreme these days. Just go to Amazon if you're a bad actor, and you can do bad things very quickly. So it's quite scary.
Is there a way of, if you're a bad actor, because there's no way that you could hold the corporation, the company that sold them the tool, because the tool could have been used for many different things.
Yeah, that's probably a stretch, but in cases where there's a business entity involved, as there is here, even if the owner wasn't the one who was at the heart of the crime, even if it's one of their employees, or even if it's a contractor who came in to fix the bathroom and put something in there, both employers and business owners have a duty to their customers to be looking for these things. They can't turn a blind eye to this. They should be looking in their bathrooms on a regular basis. They need to look around, because even if they didn't put them there, they're going to end up being responsible. And although they may not be criminally charged, they will be civilly subject to a lawsuit for their negligence.
Let me ask you, doing what you do for a living, what are some of the things you do different when you go into businesses, having seen the things that you've seen?
I try to look around. It's hard to even remember, to do that. But when I can think of it, I do try to look around. That's really all you can do.
Yeah. It's an interesting time for sure. Thank you so much for coming on the show, sharing your expertise, and my best to the victims that you are representing. I certainly hope that they do see justice and see it sooner rather than later.
Well, thank you very much for having me. Have a good day.
All right, you too. It's 3:20. I just cannot imagine. And it just, puts our stomach in a knot every time one of these situations pops up. There are so many, and these are just the ones that we know. And just like we were saying there in that discussion, you also think of, okay, well, if in one situation you get 60 people identified, how many more haven't even been identified? How many more were victimized that don't even know it yet? It is pretty frightening to think of, but these are our realities right now. All right, we're going to continue to monitor that case for sure. I promise you. We're going to stay on that to find out what happens with the man who is accused of putting those cameras in that Hinsdale spa, and the others that we notated there as well that we've been staying on top of as well. Stay with us for more. But it's 3:21. Let's get a quick break in. 2 minutes and we'll be right back. All right, 3:24, everyone. And like I said, we're waiting on the president to speak at any moment now. That could happen within the next 30 minutes that we're still here for Chicago Live. May happen after, but we're monitoring it and we'll let you know. And we'll go there live just as soon as it begins. But, you know, we try to ebb and flow throughout our time together here. There are times when we have moments to laugh, to joke, to really have, you know, some levity, to the tougher situations that we also have to talk about throughout the day. And this by far is maybe one of the most disturbing stories that we've covered in a while. And that's given what we were just talking about. You know, if you think about, we were talking about hidden cameras and people being violated in that way. But down in Downers Grove, a woman was stabbed, a pregnant woman at that, stabbed to death this week. And Leslie Moreno is in DuPage giving us more information about the new developments today with the suspect being having his first day in court. Leslie.
Hey, good evening. Yeah, this is a really disturbing case. This was all over the condition of a truck that the suspect bought from Eliza Morales and her husband. And we are learning just more disturbing details as we continue covering this case. This morning, we learned during a press conference with the DuPage County State's Attorney and the Downers Grove Chief of Police, we learned that officials say a rape kit was taken, and not only did Eliza have vaginal bruising, but they say she was burned in that area as well. They would not elaborate today on how likely it is that she was raped, but again, just a very disturbing detail to add on to the times she was stabbed, 70 times, and then the suspect, the 19-year-old Nidas Ravukas, then set her apartment on fire. Again, all over the condition. He said he was angry. According to prosecutors, he was angry about the condition of the truck. And again, police say he is responsible for the killing of that 30-year-old mother who was about 5 months pregnant. The attack, as you know, happened on Monday evening at her home that she shared with her husband and her 2-year-old daughter in Downers Grove. So just a horrific act of violence.
It really is. And the more details we get, the more disturbing and, quite frankly, just sick it is. This was a very visibly pregnant woman that we're talking about. And this all started from an interaction on Facebook Marketplace, right?
Exactly, yeah. The authorities say the meeting was connected to the sale of a truck. I guess her husband posted their truck on Facebook Marketplace, and he responded to that. He intended to buy it, and he came over to their house to finalize essentially that sale. And that's when he became angry about the condition of the truck. That's when she was stabbed 70 times, again, 5 months pregnant. When crews arrived to the scene, she was pronounced dead on the scene there. And the dog as well. We've been talking a lot about the dog that was also stabbed between the eyes. According to court documents that we've been reading, the dog was able to escape when the home was on fire, and it survived. But yeah, over this truck that he was angry about, that he had found on Marketplace. And Downers Grove Chief of Police this morning also mentioned just reminding people the dangers of meeting people online, on not just Facebook Marketplace, but anywhere online. And he also made a note to, encourage people, if you're going to be doing these sort of transactions, make sure you go somewhere public, the police department, a parking lot of a shopping center, somewhere where it's not your home, because you just never know who you're dealing with.
Yeah, you never know. And even if you would never think that somebody would take the leap from wanting to yell at people to possibly, raping and killing somebody, it's a huge leap, huge leap. What do we know about this Natus Revucas?
Yeah, he's 19 years old from Westmont. He did appear in before a judge this morning around 8:30, 9:30. He is being charged with several felonies: intentional homicide, first-degree murder, intentional homicide of an unborn child, aggravated arson, among several other felonies. And this judge that he appeared before today, he ruled that he is to remain in custody. We do know that he is currently being locked up at the DuPage County Jail. His arraignment was set for February 18th at 9:30 a.m. So yeah, family, we spoke with family. Eliza was laid to rest earlier this afternoon, is what we were being told. She was surrounded by all her family, all her friends. And yeah, when we spoke with family yesterday, they just really were, ready to see justice with this case.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what they are going through right now. Her husband, they had another child, right?
Yeah, they had a 2-year-old daughter, and her mother-in-law, Eliza's mother-in-law. We spoke with her yesterday, as well as her mom and other relatives. She loved being a mother. She was looking forward to growing her family. She was a humanitarian. She loved animals. Family told us that she was always rescuing animals. She loved learning, always at the library, teaching her kids, and she led a very healthy life, eating healthy foods, things like that. So yeah, they were really excited about growing their family.
Yeah, and I, will want to leave the conversation on her, focusing and centering her. I do have a lot of questions about the prior background of the offender, the suspect here, as to how we got to exploding in this type of way, allegedly. So I hope that we're doing some digging there too to find out. I mean, did he have any priors? Had he done anything in the past that would even possibly suggest that he would do something like this?
Yeah, according to what we've reported from this morning, from us being in court this morning, he did not have a prior record. So we're going to continue digging and see, what we find. But yeah, his arraignment is scheduled for just a few weeks, a couple of weeks. So it's going to be exciting, or not exciting, but it's going to be interesting to see what else comes out, because we are learning, more details as the days go on.
Just such a disturbing case. Thank you so much, Leslie. We'll see you in the later newscast starting at 4. We appreciate you taking a couple minutes to talk to me.
Thank you. See ya.
All right. Take care. It's 3:32, everyone. Like I said, we're going to get you out of here before 4 o'clock with a smile, but we do have to talk about, very serious stories as well, about things that are happening in our area. Some things like this that you just could never even think up, but that actually took place. This mother, this pregnant woman who was stabbed more than 70 times to her death this week down in Downers Grove. Let's take a quick break, and we'll reset and bring in our next discussion that really is about second chances for people who do way less. Okay, 3:35, and we're back with the discussion. We have had a couple of back-to-back discussions about very, very, very serious crimes. But for those who commit crimes at some point in time in their life that aren't on that level, that may need a second chance in life once they get out of prison, to have a clean start and do things better the second time around. There is help in many ways for them, and more resources are on the way. I'm joined now by Crystal Gary, the CEO of Meridian Health, and Mark Yates, the Chief Administrative Officer of the Safer Foundation here in the city of Chicago. Thank you both so much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to make it very clear to people, given our last couple of conversations, that we're not talking about people in those types of situations, but there are many, many other types of things that could land someone or get, they could end up with a record of some sort. And just recently we were talking about the Clean Slate Act in our state, and now you have this great announcement about affordable housing that will be afforded to the Safer Foundation to create for people who do just need a second chance in life, and that can start with housing.
That is correct.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Meridian, we are a managed care plan that serves individuals receiving government-sponsored health care, including Medicaid. We have partnered with the Safer Foundation on several initiatives in the past, and we're really excited about this initiative. We know that housing instability is one of the key social determinants of health. It's really hard to focus on your health and well-being if you don't have a place to, to live and feel, safe and stable. And we believe in addressing healthcare needs holistically. So the ability to partner with an organization like SAFER that has such a record of success with this population was great to be able to, help be a little part of the solution for affordable housing in Chicago.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful. And you mentioned the holistic outlook, you all looking at it from a health perspective. Mark, I've worked with you all with the Safer Foundation before. You all do take a holistic view and outlook on helping people to, have a redemption journey.
Yes, Anita. So our philosophy since our founding in 1972, we originally started focusing more so on employment, but then we realized that there were other barriers that prevented individuals from being successful with employment, and one of those is housing. We believe that if you don't have a stable house or a place of your own to come back to and relax, rejuvenate, and get ready for the next day, it kind of makes it hard for you to be successful in employment. And so we have developed a holistic approach to this.
Tell me a little bit about the overall of what you all do. For folks who are just hearing about the Safer Foundation, what you all do throughout the year.
Yeah, so SAFER sees or services roughly 42 to 4,400 individuals a year. We've serviced tens of thousands since our founding. We provide employment services, education services. We also provide certifications. We also provide wellness, substance abuse counseling, and housing. So yeah, and just 2 years ago, we opened up a food pantry because we realized that food insecurity is a serious obstacle also.
Yeah, and Crystal, for Meridian Health to take this step in this direction, I mean, this is Austin. Where do you go from here? I mean, is this an ongoing grant program that you all are doing? Tell us a little bit more about the grant.
Yeah, we at Meridian, we believe in transforming the health of the communities that we serve, one member at a time. And we are a statewide health plan, so we do serve individuals and communities across the state of Illinois. And we do have strategic partnerships in many different areas of the state. And, when we look at where we, make certain investments like this, one of the key factors is where do we have trusted, partners that we have relationships with and that we know have a, record of success. And that was where this relationship with SAFER and the ability to provide this grant funding to them came in. So it's not an ongoing grant program, but when we are able to, make investments, we look at where there's really a need and where we think that we could have the greatest impact in improving the health, with organizations that we know are can be ready to go and put that funding to great use.
Yeah, and the fact that the Safer Foundation is already active doing this work, has been for many years. I would love to know more about just the strength of having partnerships like this, Mark.
Well, so this is very important because, as you know, Safer Foundation is an Illinois-based nonprofit, and from what we know about nonprofits, we really rely on funding from other partners. And so this funding is allowing us to expand our housing initiative, because at SAFER we try to listen to the needs of our clients. And one of the needs that kept coming back to us is the fact that they go for housing, they have a job, but they don't have a home, and landlords are not cooperating with allowing them to rent from them. So we decided, you know what, this is going to become one of our initiatives, and this was very exciting when Meridian came to help us.
Yeah, and this ultimately reduces recidivism, which is people who get kind of caught up in a cycle.
Yes, that is correct. I mean, a lot of individuals prior to gaining housing with the Safer Foundation, some of the stories I've heard, I could tell you a story about an individual who we successfully placed into employment, but did not have a home. And he literally would leave all of his belongings at one of our offices, and he would ride the train all night just to stay warm and have some sense of security. And that's what housing provides, is a sense of security, a sense of belonging to a neighborhood. And so I'm very passionate about it.
Yeah, and you gave the example of, having a hard time getting, an apartment or something of that sort. But then there's the flip of getting a job without an address.
Yeah, it's that stability. Being able to say, I belong here in this community, and being a contributor to that community is one of the things that our clients are really looking forward to doing. I mean, a lot of our clients, after they start working or after they've gained more education, they're excited to contribute to their communities.
Crystal, I feel like I hear from so many health systems that are now starting to look at this holistic approach and just moving their tentacles further to stretch for other needs in the community that do rope back around into their health.
Yes. So really, there's a growing understanding that there are a lot of factors that play into achieving health outcomes and overall well-being, for an individual, which we collectively tend to call the social determinants of health. And we do try to, look at initiatives that we can partner with in order to address many of those. Another one of the key ones I think that has been mentioned is food insecurity. And, we have partnered with a variety of organizations and food pantries across the state on some of our, our food, efforts, food is medicine, and efforts to address food insecurity, including with Safer's, food pantry as well.
Yeah, and I think too about like reports as of late about, and I'm sure this isn't new, but it was, there was a new report recently about the life expectancy gap from the north side of Chicago to the south side in a place like Austin, and how, yet again, this is like an underlying area that you could see a shift in dynamics because of what you're doing.
Yeah, I mentioned before that, we're really passionate about thinking of how we can transform the communities that we serve. So, for Meridian, we have individuals who are, our members who we provide health coverage for through the Medicaid program. But we also know that those individuals, they exist in communities, they exist in neighborhoods, and, where they live, work, play, has is a big factor in their health and in their well-being. And so, making investments in the organizations that are in those communities and infrastructure, in the social safety net is an important way that we can, serve our members and make sure that, they have what they need in all aspects of their lives.
Yeah, and Mark, I would like your take. I was just asking her about a new report about the life expectancy gap, but from, a reporting standpoint, I would like your take on the Clean Slate Act. Like, how does it feel to see more resources, more money, this grant would be included, into the work that you all have been doing for so long?
Well, for us, it's an immediate impact, and that's one of the things that I'm really excited about. Just take this project, for instance. This grant, through this grant, we acquired a 23-unit residential building, which allows us to immediately address issues of, the inability to gain housing. And so the other exciting part of this grant is not only does it allows for residential, housing, but it also provides us to provide services immediately in that neighborhood from that property. And so we would have what we call a navigator, and that person would be there on site to help provide services or help individuals gain services, on their quest to employment, on their quest to, like they may have health issues. All of those things will be addressed, and we'll have an individual who's very knowledgeable of that can help make that process a little easier for the residents in that neighborhood. And so that's very exciting. So when you talk about, the life expectancy, I feel very confident this would help increase it in that area, because there's a person dedicated to make an impact immediately. So
well, we all
that's where we are with that.
Have our place in making an impact, and I'm super happy to see the two of you all working together in your organizations, Meridian Health and the Safer Foundation, finding a way to make a greater impact in Austin and beyond. Thank you so much for your time and what you do on an ongoing basis.
Thanks for having
Thank you.
us. Yes.
All right, you both take care. It's 3:48 right now. Give us 2 minutes and we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. 3:50 right now, and with the day that we have had, some of the stories that we have had, we deserve to talk about Winterfest at Lake Geneva before we get out of here for Chicago Live today. I have the president at Visit Lake Geneva with me right now, Stephanie Klett. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, it's so great to be here.
Great to have you on the show. And, we came out first thing this morning. We had Jake out there as people were just starting to get out and do some sculpting. How long does this go on? And give us a little background on what people will see.
You bet. In fact, Jake's still here. He's actually carving a sculpture himself. So what's happening is this is the 31st annual Winterfest, and it's America's Snow Sculpting Invitational. So literally, we have the 15 top teams, snow sculpting teams, not only in the United States, but in the world. So for the first time ever, Team Mexico is here, and they're a former world champion. And we have a team from Turkey. So that is a first for us. So they are taking a 10-foot tall, 8x8 wide block of snow, and without using any power tools, they are creating a masterpiece. And they have 72 hours. It's done in live time. And Tools Down is this Saturday at 11 a.m. And they are vying for that title of America's Snow Sculpting Champion.
Ooh, tools down, hands up. Now, Stephanie, I'm getting all the energy from you, but I can't see you. Can you turn your camera on so we can see you?
Oh, sure, you bet. I think that's it. Yes, no?
Do we have her now? Not yet.
All right, we're getting there. Apparently, we're not TV experts turning the camera on.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm just like, I'm getting all this energy from her, but we can't see her yet.
So you still can't see me?
Can we see her now? No. We still can't see you. Nope, still can't see you.
All right, we're working on it.
Tell us a little bit more about like how long Winterfest has been going on and how people can really make the most of capturing what's being done out there.
Well, what's great about this event is it's free, and it's something that's great for the whole family. It doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter if you love winter or you just barely tolerate winter. You're going to love it. So the star is the snow sculpting, but what you're going to see every night, we do s'mores on the beach. Ooh. So, when do you get to be outside in the winter on the beach with a campfire, family, friends, a romantic date, and you're roasting s'mores? We have fire performers downtown, and these performers are amazing. They're twirling fire, they're eating fire, swallowing fire, they're hula hooping fire. We have live music. We get over 60,000 people here over the course of a couple days, but because it's so vast outside and over many blocks, you never feel crowded. Ooh. It's just an absolute blast. And aside from these 15 massive snow sculptures, throughout the downtown, we have 40 different ice sculptures. So if you're a person who loves Instagrammable moments, that is exactly what you need to do, because you're going to get 40 pictures of some of the coolest ice sculptures you've ever seen.
Stephanie, speaking of the ice sculptures, the last few years you all have had trouble keeping them around.
I know. In fact, last year it was so warm that the snow sculptors covered their snow sculptures in blankets and cooling blankets, and they went golfing. So today, this is the furthest along I have seen them with their carvings in years, and they said that literally today, yesterday, and this weekend's forecast is perfect snow sculpting weather.
I love to hear it.
They're here to stay.
I love to hear it because it's so sad. Each year when we got like a notice to say that you all were having to close early or something, I'm like, oh no, not again.
I know. So you've got to make it this year because it's literally perfect.
Now, for anyone who's not been to Lake Geneva before, they might be thinking, wait a minute, that's over the state line. Is that far?
No, you're here in less than an hour and a half from the Chicago area. In fact, we're known as the Hamptons of Chicago because this has really been a Chicago vacation destination since pre-Civil War. And after the Chicago fire, a lot of wealthy industrialists in Chicago wanted to be by a spring-fed lake and water. And so they created these historic estates in Lake Geneva. And so one of the cool things about Lake Geneva, winter, spring, summer, or fall, is you can walk through the backyards, 21 miles around this lake. You're walking through the backyard of the Wrigley Mansion and of Schwinn bicycles. And so it's like walking past history. And in winter, of course, we have ice fishing. Right now, I'm looking out over Geneva Lake with tons of ice fishermen and women. We have the ice sailing. Oh my gosh, if you've never seen ice sailing, it is so cool. We have hovercraft. We have igloo dining. We have downhill skiing. We have snow tubing. We have, all these great parks that you can snowshoe in. So this really is a great winter destination, just over an hour from Chicago.
Sounds amazing, Stephanie. Thanks so much for taking a little time for us. We'll check back in later in the weekend.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care. Everybody, we're going to take one last 2-minute break, and then we'll be back to close out the show. All right, everyone, we so appreciate you being here for Chicago Live yet again. We're back tomorrow from 1 to 4 p.m., and we certainly hope you will, too. We'll send you over to First at 4 next. It's coming up in about 5 seconds.
Live from Chicago, this is Fox 32 News at 4.
Now at 4, more than a dozen families are without heat right now as we deal with more